Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome all of you back to a very different sort of video I wanted to do tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It feels the proper thing to do for this time of year, and I'll get to explaining exactly why in a very short moment. In fact, let us explain for it right now. Now, back when I was in secondary school, actually, just before I started secondary school, my old head teacher, who was the head of the entire school, because we used to have a lower school and an upper school, but we haven't had a thing like that since 2011 to 2012. We all merged into one building. But the point was this, ladies and gentlemen. My old head teacher, he used to give out this very special assembly that he would do once a year, roughly during the month of May. I don't know technically what it was about in May that struck him as important to do this, but I remember this, what he said and what he did so much that I decided that in this sort of time-honoured tradition, ladies and gentlemen, I decided I would continue this sort of annual tradition, because I think it's very important to have very certain occasions to do things. Christmas, birthdays, remembering your Easter Sunday, the coming of the Holy Spirit. Those sort of things matter to me, and I'll get to talking about those things in a second, because I wanted to discuss to you exactly what we have in store. Now, this is technically a song that I'm going to be talking about, except the way that my old head teacher would do this assembly, he would just straight up read from the lyrics. And the way I've sort of like tried to speak this evening, because I try to like go for a very sort of a little bit of a different approach, because I'm trying to almost like imitate the way that he talked. He sort of like his like chin was quite high, and he spoke very clearly, although he spoke quite fast, but you could make out every single word that he said. I know physically I don't look like him. My old head teacher was nearly 6'7" tall. Well, it was something about that anyway. It's been a very long time since I've seen him. Been retired since 2013, which is that's something. That really is something. So but that's just an example of time, ladies and gentlemen, and this is what we're going to be talking about today. Plenty of Time by Connie Smith. I got up on Sunday morning, went to the church at 10. I listened to the words I'd heard time and time again. The preacher spoke of simple lives, it seems he spoke of mine. But I was young, I have plenty of time. I walked on down life's pathway, living as I wished to live. How to beat the other fellow, how to get what life could give. Making money isn't sinful, having fun is not a crime. So I'll just wait, I've got plenty of time. Plenty of time to decide where I'm bound, to eternal darkness or to heaven's crown. I'm just a young girl, not yet in my prime, so I'll just wait, I've got plenty of time. Before I knew what happened, life's scenes had passed away, and millions stood before God's throne, for it was Judgment Day. Now eternal darkness beckons, and the name it calls is mine. But I thought I had plenty of time. Eternity waits, I've got plenty of time, to think of all the days that Christ could have been mine. Now my chance is over, earth's days are far behind, but I thought I had plenty of time. Now here I stand with nothing but time. You could see almost from the outset, ladies and gentlemen, what exactly Connie Smith was getting at, and you can understand as well as I do about the very importance of time itself. Time is a subject that has influenced some of the greatest groups of all time. Pink Floyd, Dream Theater, Megadeth, Metallica, the Beatles, many great groups all throughout history have at one point in their lives spoken about time. They have talked about having the time of our lives, enjoying the days we would spend together, about the times we would be having right now when we did not need to worry about time, when we were young, reckless, and those who fear that their days are numbered and ultimately time for them was running out. Plenty of Time, ladies and gentlemen, tells us of a very, very important lesson about life, that no matter at what point you hear this, you will always hear this, maybe a few years too late, that we do not have all the time in the world, ladies and gentlemen. We have to make the most of every single moment we have. Because, ladies and gentlemen, whether we want to agree on this or not, the days we have, the moments we share, they are all ours, and we will never have or look upon their like ever again. It seems only yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, that I was sitting in a university studio talking about the Pink Floyd song Time itself back in 2018 when I was 20 years old. I was sitting there, I was full of awe for things that only now I was beginning to realise. 3 years later, ladies and gentlemen, time is sort of slowly becoming my enemy. I do not feel like I was the exact same person as I was 3 years ago, but I can hardly say I've necessarily metamorphosized into a different person nowadays. Perhaps it's because I'm still in the same location. Maybe it's because I am still the same person as I was back then. Maybe it's because, really, how much do you expect to change? A lot of things change in time, ladies and gentlemen, but I feel as if like something about the way I change all happens in here. I gain a whole new perspective about things. I meet new people, I make new friends, I discover something new every single day. Little by little, these things impact somebody's life. They impact somebody's vision of how they see the world. Which is why I consider it almost a very foolish thing to say that, for whatever reason, my days of learning are long behind me. My days of learning are far from over, ladies and gentlemen. There is still plenty to learn about the earth we are living on. There is still a lot about the people that live on this planet. People that haven't been born yet. People who will be perhaps going through the same notions I went through when I was 20 years old. There would be people 10 years older than me who are perhaps wondering, where has the time gone? There will be people who are waiting for when time is going to run out. It is a devilish thing to think about, ladies and gentlemen, but it is something that we all hopefully have to think about at some point in our lives. At what point, when we know time is running out, what is it we do with the time we have left? What about the time we have now, ladies and gentlemen? We all know that COVID has been a disaster on all of our lives. I don't think there is a single person living now that could go for the next 5 years without talking about the horrific events in great detail about COVID. Of all the situations that have occurred throughout the news, all over the world, millions of people suffering, hundreds of thousands dying all over the world. And some of us are left to pick up the pieces. Some of us are there to realise that perhaps they've had 2 years of their lives snatched away from them. It is maybe only a cruel reminder, ladies and gentlemen, of just how important time really is, because 2 years of our lives, ladies and gentlemen, gone. They are never going to come back, ladies and gentlemen. So, just to put that in some kind of perspective, you may have heard me use this phrase before, but if I live to be, let's say, 26, 2 years of my life, ladies and gentlemen, that's 1/13 of my life gone. Just like that. To put this in a slightly, I think it's sort of the prospect of that is almost worse when you're young, when after all of these years of education, of learning about the world, also about the things you may indeed be interested in, you suddenly start to begin to realize exactly, well, you are now in the real world now. So one of the things about the real world is time. Time slipping away from all of us. Whatever we choose to do, ladies and gentlemen, whatever it is we choose to do for the rest of our lives, whatever it is we decide not to do, and whatever time we have, that the next generation will remember. It's important to keep these things in mind, ladies and gentlemen, because it's your life. It is whatever you decide to do with it. I don't know if you can, but can you hear that now, ladies and gentlemen? You see that, ladies and gentlemen? That's the sound of time ticking away. And the way I sort of like try to present my videos nowadays is so that I'm sort of like just covering the clock I have in my room, because it's a good reminder that you don't pay attention to that sort of thing. You don't pay attention to whatever the time is, because I'm recording this in the past. You people out there will not be seeing it until the future, which will become the present. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot tell for myself who will be watching this in the future, because it is not for the future I am making this video for. I am making it for the people of the present, those who are watching this at this very moment. The past has happened. We are, in many ways, ladies and gentlemen, living in both the past and the present, because we're living with the knowledge of the fact that we have existed. I certainly have existed 23 years ago. I cannot, however, live in the knowledge that even though we may be in the middle of May, I may not be able to be here in the next 6 months. I don't know if I'm going to be here in the next 6 months. That's not saying I'm going to die or anything like that. I'm just saying that as a figure of speech. I could be sitting here, I could be sitting on the other side of the bed, I could be halfway around the world. It all depends on exactly what happens in time. What we do here and now, ladies and gentlemen, in the present, is going to affect the future. The actions we've done in the past, ladies and gentlemen, have led us here. The actions we do in the present lead us into the future. The actions we do in the future, ladies and gentlemen, become the present. In which case, it will not be the future anymore. The future is far off, a place we will never reach. But unless we strike, ladies and gentlemen, unless we make the most of our time, then we will have to worry a lot more about not seeing the future. We might not even see tomorrow. And maybe, just like Connie, there might be plenty of us out there who might have nothing except time. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and make the most of it, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I've got to say.